Picture this. It's a Tuesday afternoon. A senior leader at a Fortune 500 company walks into a meeting room. He has been preparing for this conversation for a week. He has notes, he has data. He even rehearsed what he was going to say in the car on the way to work. He's about to give feedback to one of his best people, a high performer, someone he respects, but someone who, in the last quarter, has started showing up differently, missing details, cutting people off in meetings, losing patience with junior team members. So the leader sits down, looks this person in the eye and says, "I need to be honest with you. Your attitude has been a problem lately and it is affecting the team." 30 seconds of silence. Then the high performer speaks, calmly, quietly, and says, "My mother was diagnosed with an illness. I have been going to the hospital every evening after work. I did not want to make it anyone else's problem. But clearly, I have failed at that too." The meeting ended shortly after that. The leader later told a colleague that it was the worst conversation of his career. Not because the employee reacted badly, but because he realized he had just made someone who was already suffering feel worse, and he had no idea. Now, here is the thing. This leader was not a bad person. He did exactly what every leadership book tells you to do. Be direct, be honest, address the behavior early. He checked every box, and he still got it completely wrong. That is what this episode is about. Why feedback, the thing every leader is told they must do, fails far more often than anyone wants to admit, and what to do instead. In 1996, Avram Kluger and Angelo Dinesi did something nobody had done before. They collected every major study ever conducted on feedback, over 600 studies, decades of research, thousands of participants. They wanted to answer one simple question: does feedback actually improve performance? The answer should have changed how every company on earth operates. In 1 out of every 3 cases, feedback made performance worse. Not neutral, worse. The person performed better before they received the feedback than after. Let that sink in for a moment, right? 1/3 of the time, the thing we have been told is the most important tool in leaders' toolkit actually causes harm. I was shocked to hear that. And yet, every leadership training program still teaches it. Every annual review system is built around it. Every manager is told, give more feedback, give it faster, give it more often. But nobody stopped to ask, what if we are doing it wrong? Marcus Buckingham, a researcher at the ADP Research Institute, put it like this. He said that more than half of what shows up in your rating of someone else actually reflects your own characteristics, not theirs. In other words, when you give feedback, you are often revealing more about yourself than about the person in front of you. Wow, who can believe that? But that is a problem, because feedback is supposed to be about them, but it rarely is. Through my years of coaching leaders, I have watched feedback fail in 3 specific ways. Let me walk you through each one. See if one of these actually sound familiar. Please put it in the comment. Story 1. The wrong moment. Imagine this. A VP at a tech company has a team member who just bombed a client presentation. The slides were wrong, the data was outdated, the client was visibly frustrated. The meeting ends, everyone walks out, and the VP pulls this person aside. Right there, in the corridor, still hot, still embarrassed, and delivers what he thinks is clear, helpful feedback. Now here is what is happening inside the employee's brain at that exact moment. When a human being is under stress, the amygdala the part of the brain responsible for detecting threats takes over. It floods the body with cortisol, and the prefrontal cortex, the part of that handles rational thinking, reflection, and learning, goes quiet. In simple language, when someone is stressed, scared, or embarrassed, their brain physically cannot process new information. It is too busy trying to survive the moment. So, the VP delivers perfect feedback, and the employee's brain files it under threat and throws it away. This is not a rare situation. This plays out in offices around the world every single day. A leader sees something go wrong, feels the urgency to fix it, and rushes in before the other person is ready to hear it. The lesson: timing is not a nice to have. It is the difference between feedback that lands and the feedback that damages. The research says wait 24 hours to 48 hours. Let the cortisol settle. Let the thinking brain come back online. Then have the conversation. Now, story 2. The wrong target. Here is another scenario most of you will recognize. A manager sits down with a direct report and say, I need to be honest with you. You are not strategic enough. You are not strategic enough. The employee nods, goes quiet, leaves the room. The manager thinks it went well. 2 weeks later, the resignation letter arrives. Now, you are not strategic enough feels like feedback. It sounds like feedback. But look at it closely. It is not about anything the person did. It is a label. It is a statement about who they are. It's a judgment. And then there is a massive difference between saying you are not strategic and saying in last week's planning session, the proposal focused on execution details but did not connect to company's 3-year goals. Next time, it would help to start with the strategic objectives and work backwards. The first version is an identity tag. The brain hears you are flawed as a person. The second version is a behavior description. The brain hears, here is something specific I can change. The Center of Creative Leadership developed a model called SBI. And I teach a lot of leaders like this. Situation, behavior, and impact. Describe where it happened, describe what you observed, describe the effect it had. Never describe the person. Or you can use NVC if you guys know non-violent communication. So this distinction seems small, but in practice, it is the difference between someone who walks out of a feedback conversation motivated to improve and someone who walks out updating their CVs. It's not a no-brainer. What's the lesson here? The lesson is the moment feedback becomes about the person instead of the behavior, you have lost them. They're no longer listening. They are defending. Story 3. The wrong direction. This is where the whole idea of feedback starts to crack open. And this one is not a hypothetical. This actually happened. In the early 90s, Marshall Goldsmith, who would go on to be named the world's #1 leadership thinker by Thinkers 50, was sitting in a room with a management thinker named John Katzenbach. I think I'm pronouncing it right, but if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please, I'm sorry. But they were frustrated. They had spent years watching leaders give feedback the textbook way and still not getting the results they expected. And then something clicked. Goldsmith realized the problem was not how leaders gave feedback. The problem was the direction. Feedback, by definition, looks backwards. It is about what already happened, what went wrong, what you should have done differently. But human beings are not very good at changing the past. We are, however, remarkably good at imagining a better future. So, Goldsmith created something he called Feedforward. And the concept is almost embarrassingly simple. I teach every leader. Instead of saying, here is what you did wrong, you say, here is an idea for what you could try next time. Instead of judgment about the past, you offer suggestions for the future. That is it. That is the whole idea. And now, here is where it gets remarkable. Goldsmith did not just theorize about this, he tested it. Over the next 3 decades, more than 1 million leaders participated in his Feedforward exercise around the world. The exercise works like this. You walk up to someone, you tell them one behavior you want to improve. They give you 2 suggestions for the future. No mention of the past is allowed. You listen, and the only thing you are allowed to say in response is, "Thank you." Then you move on to the next person and repeat. At the end of every session, Goldsmith would ask participants to describe the experience in one word. The most common answers: positive, useful, and one word that kept coming up that surprised even Goldsmith: fun. Fun. Think about it. Think about it for a moment. When was the last time anyone described feedback conversations as fun? When was the last time your boss called you and said, "I have some feedback for you," and your first reaction was excitement? Did it ever happen? I haven't had mine yet. So Goldsmith asked people why feedforward felt so different from feedback. Here is what they told him. We can change the future. We cannot change the past. Nobody was judging me. I could just listen. Helping someone be right is more productive than proving them wrong. And one participant said something that has stayed with me. It is amazing how much better I can listen when the only thing I need to say is thank you. The lesson: the most powerful shift a leader can make is not giving feedback. It is actually flipping the direction entirely. Stop judging the past. Start offering ideas for the future, or just be a coach, just be a curious coach, and ask your employee, ask your direct report head. So if traditional feedback fails 1/3 of a time, what do you actually do instead? I use a simple framework with the leaders. 3 letters, TFF: timing, focus, feed forward. T is for timing. Before you say anything, ask yourself, is this person calm right now? Can they actually hear me? If they are stressed, embarrassed, angry, or overwhelmed, stop, wait. Come back in 24 hours or 48 hours. The conversations will be twice as effective when their thinking brain is back online. I also teach Better Conversations from Better Conversations Foundation. They have a brilliant modules to train your employees, to train your leaders in about giving feedback and how to have better conversations. They use traffic light model: red, green, or amber. So when someone is red, let's not talk about it. When someone is amber, you can still talk about it. But someone is green, then it's the best time to talk. Now the next one, F. F is for focus. Am I describing a behavior or am I labeling a person? If the words "you are" come out of your mouth followed by an adjective, stop. Rewrite the sentence. Describe the situation, the behavior, and the impact. Never the identity. F is for feed forward. Am I looking backward or forward? Instead of telling someone what went wrong, offer 2 ideas for what they could try next time. Then be quiet and let them say thank you. That is it. Timing, focus, feed forward. 3 checks before you open your mouth. Take 5 seconds, changes everything. Let me go back to the story I started with. The senior leader and the high performer one, if you guys remember. The leader could have done one thing differently. Before walking into that room with his prepared notes and his rehearsed speech, he could have asked one simple question. How are you doing? Not at work, but how are you doing as you? The single question would have changed everything. It would have given the employee space to share what was happening. It would have given the leader context, and the context matters. And the conversation that followed would have looked completely different. Feedback is not broken because leaders are bad people. It is broken because the way we have been taught to do it ignores how human beings actually work. It does actually ignore, doesn't it? Our brains shut down on the threat. Our identities feel attacked when labels are used, and our minds resist backward looking judgment. But when you get the timing right, when you describe behavior instead of character, and when you offer ideas for the future instead of verdicts about the past, something changes. People stop defending and they start listening. The question is not, are you giving enough feedback? The question is, anyone actually hearing it? Try the TFF framework this week, just once, with one person, and notice what happens. I'm Rohit Gautam. This is Rohit Gautam Show. Business, leadership, the human mind. I will see you next time.